Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here talking about the power of communications. My name is Mona Kwatra. I'm a veteran comms and marketing professional with over 2 decades of work experience and delighted to be addressing you all today. Rep today, thank you so much for the invitation and have a fantastic event 2020 despite COVID and all. Right. Over to my presentation. Let me set the context for our next few slides that will follow. Communicators, comms professional, we all know we are the connecting link between business buyers and external needs. The advice that we give to our stakeholders can be the difference between making a campaign good or great, and how we manage this balance, this business profitability growth bias as against value and for our stakeholders can actually craft a positive or negative perception. We all agree, right? Here the power of communications is the secret sauce. I do truly believe, and the next few slides will um, set the context of that. Look, when you look at connections, you look at relationships, you look at collaborations, contracts, all these are connectors, right, or connections of various kinds. These are similar words used to describe an interaction between two separate people, parties, entities, organizations. There is a relationship, a link, a cause and effect, a sharing, giving, taking, wanting, addressing, needing, accepting. There is an interactivity between two different entities. In any connections, it's very important to understand that there is a unifying theme, and that humanity. Whatever the purpose of the outcome, there are people at the center of what we do as communications, what we do as connectors, and it's important to keep that in mind. Which brings me to my next slide. Humanity can be defined in many different ways, but ultimately it is about heart and hormones. To this, I was reading a very interesting article from the Harvard Business Review. It was titled "How Hardwired is Human Behavior," and this article actually spoke about the managerial implication of evolutionary psychology. And it says, and some of you may have heard this, you can take the person out of the Stone Age, but you cannot take Stone Age out of the person. And this is a universal truth, right? This is very critical while coming up with any kind of connecting campaigns, any kind of collaborations, any kind of comms activities that we do. It is a chain reaction. Whatever we do, whatever our messaging, it is important to understand ultimately that we're dealing with humans. We're not dealing with machines. We're not dealing with products. We're not dealing with TRPs. You're not even dealing with profits. End of the day, we're dealing with human feelings led by heart and hormones. Part of that, how you harness that, the power of that as communications is going to be very, very key. An example from my earlier years, a company, a financial firm I was working with, was celebrating its 25th anniversary. So they decided to, of course, have an employee party, build culture, cake cutting, and whatnot. There, as comms, I suggested a small idea. So let's invite some of our ex-alumni. And management of us accepted the idea, and we were small enough to host them. And for the first time ever, probably in corporate India history, among the first, we had ex-employees actually join and celebrate 25 years. This helped us win hearts and minds of all the ex-alumni who, of course, later on went on to head and play senior roles in various banks and financial institutions. Think of the business connect and the business win and the business goodwill it generated. The idea was right. The idea came up with heart at the center. But the impact went beyond what anyone envisaged. It had a huge positive impact. And that really brings us to my point on the exponential power of communications and how it can actually enable unintended consequences. You can never imagine or guess that one activations, you know, one collaboration, the kind of messaging, the kind of feelings that is engine, that you are able to make, what will that uh, bring you forward? What are the businesses that you will win? One example of this exponential power of communications and in the unintended consequences. One, of course, I spoke about how it actually helped us win business hearts and client hearts by where we were deploying human connections and human feeling in a that time internal comms, external comms, CSR led activation where we were tying business with purpose. Another example of the unintended consequences and the exponential power of communications was in improving client relationships. You remember the 25th anniversary party I spoke about? We actually had a whole family day, around to build culture. We went out to the Sanjay Gandhi National Park in Bombay, that many of you may know are the green lungs of Bombay. And at the Borivali National Park, whole host of us, including our CEO, family, senior management, were all there. We met with the forest officials. We got connected with the Bombay Natural History Society. Subsequently, also, we were able to connect with Bittu Sehgal, the famous, well-known conservationist, etc. And then we started working in the field of environment sustainability, working, in terms of improving our, in preserving our national park, and thereby also preserving India's water security. Did we know that 2 years back that walk in the park would actually have resulted in this huge outcome where a company actually goes out and 360 degrees starts working for the environment and also collaborates with other clients who do so? So there's a beautiful cause and effect that we don't always realize. But we have to ensure, if we put the right feelings and the right sentiments and deploy those carefully, some beautiful outcomes can get imagined. Now that comes to crafting a communication plan and the importance of connectors. Yes, you have platforms, you have channels, you have campaigns, you have your spends, you have the content, you have the collaborations and sponsorships, everything that goes into building an integrated campaign. We all know that as communications, right? As marketers, nobody needs to tell us. The critical factor in the secret sauce is look beyond the who. Look at it holistically. And while crafting your communication plan and devising your campaigns, remind yourself that ultimately there is an individual, there is a person with needs, wants, constraints, concerns at the back of what you are to offer. See what they need, and that will help you distill insights. That will be the secret sauce in your strong, in your communication plan, and will actually bring forth the exponential power of connections that we spoke to about, and which will have some beautiful, positive, unintended consequences. The danger of not looking beyond the who, what, how, and to the why, and to the emotional quotient is that the unintended consequences can at times be negative. And many of us know of campaigns where, with of all the right reasons, it still got a negative equity and negatively impacted the brand because maybe the insight, the why wasn't clearly thought out. Let me give you examples of how do you go about looking at the why. Two business-led examples, because ultimately, hey, it's all about business, right? And how can we create a enabling business environment? How as comms we can give the right advice. Um, in another organization, we were called in by the senior management, my marketing person and the comms head. We were called in to create an ad campaign to build awareness for a new business category. It's not that the business category didn't exist, it had existed for several years. There were several companies, but there was no clear guidelines. There was no, I mean, but the business was had not taken off. You had invested time, money, set up the company, set up the people, but the platform wasn't taking off. So they asked us do an ad campaign, and this is the budget, etc. So as comms, obviously, I started, sure, we'll do an ad campaign, but what is it that you want and why? And who are the players impacted? And this further engagement and two-way communication with the businesses led to the realization that here the need, it's not really as much as a gap. Um, the roadmap, the clear regulatory guidelines were not there. A. Secondly, the accept while awareness levels were there, the acceptance levels were low. B. And C, most importantly, what was left unsaid officially is that all the different parts of the business ecosystem were afraid that the other person would come over and kind of walk away with the lion's share, which wasn't the case. So ultimately, we galvanize the ecosystem. We work with different parties of the ecosystem to understand the needs, the gaps, and address them. We we formed a message framework around that. We got everyone together around a common goal. And hey, guess what? This category actually evolved, and this baby waiting to be delivered was I'm talking about is the asset reconstruction industry, which finally took off a couple of years back. And there we kind of our messaging was it was not about distress, but it's about evolution and resolution. Can you see the difference? Resolution and distress, big difference, right? And that galvanized a lot of the community to go forth and won us a lot of business accolades. Yes, a lot needs to be done, but it was a step in the right direction. And comms was an enabler here where we partnered with the business to do so. Another example of, while crafting campaign parameters as communicators, you also have to understand and assess what is the human angle is. We were to launch a new life insurance product, but the media refused to carry it because the insurance product ULIPs had a bad name. They were seen as too expensive. Distributors did not want to sell. There was no demand. Through a series of iterations, we understood what the problem was. We had a few sympathetic senior distributors who were open to, discussions. We allayed and assuaged their concerns. We had a, integrated campaign. We spoke to different customer audiences, and we created the right messaging framework, and thereby created a surround sound which was positive. Following which there was greater acceptability by the media to report. Of course, the distributor community went and certainly distribute this product for which our company was a pioneer. This was all enabled by comms. Look, ultimately, the car power of connects is immense, and we all are very smart people, and we are strategic. We know what needs to get done. But there is this quote which was given in this blog on called "The Power of Humanity on Being Human Now and the Future." This is on icrc.org. It's a blog by Hugo Slim around humanitarian law and policy. Um, the quote goes as this: "Our human power will become even greater. But what about our wisdom and the way we use this new power of humanity?" What this basically means that the power of the human species enabled by AI, robotics, biotech is going to grow immensely. Our mechanization will give us huge exponential power and maybe unfair advantage over other non-human life forms, over the planet, over certain people. As communicators, we need to understand that what is the human need that will ultimately business cater to, that our businesses can address in the manner that they can address, which will ultimately ensure that business lands well, it is profitable, and it grows the right way. As professionals, as comms people, we need to find the answer to how will we be using this human power, who will be using it for, and more importantly, why will people want to use it? Thank you so much.